Here's Neymar now, Cavani is there. Balotelli on the turn. Quality. Kalufa Kamano. Oh, what a strike! An absolute beauty from Florian Thauvin. Kylian Mbappe wraps it up.
Hello, bonjour, and welcome to a brand new season of Le Beau Jeu, the official Ligue podcast. Now, the first trophy of 2019-2020 has already been claimed by Paris Saint-Germain, who beat Rennes in the Trophée des Champions in China on Saturday. And fresh back from Shenzhen via Glastonbury is Robbie Thompson, and we're in his flat having got through the summer Paris heatwave. Sao An, Rob.
Dave, hello, welcome everyone to the front room again. And yes, only just got back myself yesterday, so feeling a little bit jet lagged.
My name's David Crossan, your host, as our regular anchor Matt Spiro is away. We're not quite sure whether he's done a Halihodzic or whether he's off trying to get a big transfer over the line, or if he's just having a lie down. He's a bit excited that Arsenal have signed Nicolas Pepe from Lille. No Matt then, but I'm delighted to say we've got a podcast debutant, our executive producer Ian Holyman, who is a real person. He's not a figment of our collective imagination. Have you had a good pre-season, Ian, been working on those puns?
Hi David, hello everyone. Yeah, I'd like to I feel like I'm the Jesse Moulin to your Stéphane Ruffier here. I'm just, hanging around in the background, picking up a, sizable pay packet and coming out to perform once in a while. So, looking forward to it.
And his suspension's over, so Armel Tongi is with us as well.
I'm the Stéphane Ruffier then.
And how many? You've still got a few games left of your band, don't you?
Nice to be back. Start of a fresh season, new ideas and serene tackles.
Yeah, it's no gentle pre-season run out this. I want us to be sharp from the first whistle here. We're going to go through a busy summer for the Ligue 1 clubs, look at the transfer ins and outs and ahead to the new season. We have to start though with Paris Saint-Germain. Now, Rob, you travel with the players. You were singing the Thiago Silva song all the way to China and back again, but somehow they're still speaking to you. You know PSG from A to Z, from Areola to Zagreb. How was the Trophée des Champions?
The match itself was a pre-season match. It wasn't the easiest. The conditions were very difficult for both sides. A victory in the end for Paris Saint-Germain. Rennes scored a goal that looked about half a yard offside with their only real attack of the match.
Adrien Unou's goal, the opening goal
for
Rennes, who beat PSG in the Coupe de France final. So Kylian Mbappe talked about revenge ahead of this game, and Paris Saint-Germain did get their revenge in the end.
They did, courtesy of an Angel Di Maria free kick as well, which was a superb free kick. Pablo Sarabia looks very good, Ander Herrera as well. That real box-to-box number 8, high-intensity midfielder that Paris perhaps have lacked a little bit in the last couple of years. He looks very good. Abdou Diallo and Thilo Kehrer are playing in the middle for the moment because Thiago Silva and Marquinhos have only just got back from winning the Copa America over the summer as well. They came on. Marquinhos started in midfield and was very good there as well. Plenty of positives, I think, in the end for Paris Saint-Germain. And a few highlights from the 11-day tour of China as well. And I'll have to just think about what I can reveal. I did actually have to sing in the plane on the way back.
Seriously? What did you go for?
I can't reveal that or what other people sang.
Mysterious Girl, Peter Andre.
But there was a great atmosphere in the team plane on the way back after Paris had won their 40th trophy. And I can say that it was Alphonse.
That includes the 7 Trophée des Champions in a row, does it? They count those?
Yes, they do count them, and I saw that they were even included in the local newspapers and everything back here in France, in L'Equipe as well, talking about the chance to do a quadruple again this year was back on the cards. So perhaps the Trophée des Champions getting a bit of recognition as well.
Big celebrations for Paris Saint-Germain, another trophy under the belt, but no dousing of Thomas Tuchel in champagne. He didn't sing happy. That was his initiation last year when they beat Monaco. And ultimately, Armel, it was a player who didn't play. He was suspended and is coming back from injury, who still ended up dominating the headlines. Neymar wants out, but he's still at PSG. It's an awkward situation.
And I saw the replays of the second goal, the winning goal, Angel Di Maria's one. And, well, I know he does it because he loves to provoke reaction on the pitch or off it. But Neymar didn't really seem too bothered. Everyone around him was smiling and happy. Perhaps you're a little closer and he just takes a while longer to react than most, but...
Well, I didn't see him. He was up in the VIP box as well. We were in the press stand. But I did, at one point in the second half, he must have done something because about half the crowd all started cheering and focusing on what was happening in the VIP box and not what was happening down on the pitch. He is a star in Asia and everywhere, and probably more than more than Paris Saint-Germain. He is a star, and it was a shame probably for many of the fans that he wasn't there. He didn't travel to Macau or to Suzhou with the team either because he's coming back from that ankle injury. So, look, he does attract a lot of attention.
Ian, Neymar was disciplined by the club. This is part of Leonardo being back as sporting director, a more hardline stance, let's say, than what's happened in terms of the treatment of the most expensive player in the world, the Brazilian superstar. A week late returning from Brazil. Paris Saint-Germain have to get this situation sorted out, don't they? It's going to be better for them ultimately if he does go, if he wants to go.
It will. I mean, you can't keep a player like that on the sidelines or at the club against his will, even though I've no real doubting of the professionalism on the pitch. I mean, he certainly performed as Neymar over the last couple of years, but I mean, basically, if you look at his injury record, he's played a full season out of 2. I mean, yes, he's provided the goals, he's provided the assists, but you need more than that from 220 odd million. So they do have to get this right. I mean, I think Leonardo's really following on from what Nasser Al-Khelaifi said about, look, if players aren't happy, then they can go. That was clearly, at the end of last season, that was clearly directed towards Neymar.
But that's a bit of a change in politics, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
The club have never let players go who wanted to go. I remember Blaise Matuidi had almost gone to Juventus a year before he did, and the club turned around and said, "Look, no, you're not going this year."
There was an interview with Marco Verratti last week in a French newspaper where he was saying that he almost did want to go to Barcelona. Was a bit disappointed they didn't let him go, but seems to have changed now, and that players that want to leave should be let to leave, so that the club can advance with players that want to play for the manager in charge.
Well, it's the idea of becoming bigger than the players, isn't it? And that's what a criticism that's been levelled a lot at Paris Saint-Germain is that these star players have been too big, that Zlatan was too big for the club, that Beckham probably was too big. And they were great servants for the club, those two in particular. Then the same things were said about Neymar, that he was too big for the club and not respecting the club. The club has to be in a position, has to be strong enough to say, look, you don't want us? Well, then you can go.
I think there was a big step towards that as well, with Kylian Mbappe sort of rowing back on those comments that he made.
The greater responsibility.
Exactly. He kind of rode back on those in China, didn't he, Robbie? And said, like, I wasn't really talking about leaving. It was that sense that if Mbappe is sort of putting himself at the service of the club, then, sort of by extension,
that
Neymar
press conference, the Matchday -1 press conference from Kylian Mbappe, if you haven't seen it, go and see it, because the kid is only 20. And it was one of the best press conferences I've seen from a player at Paris Saint-Germain since Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It was headlines, it was punchy, he didn't avoid any question, he answered everything straight up, he was funny, he was brilliant, he was candid. He looked
really sharp in pre-season, hasn't he, Rob?
It was
he looks
incredible.
In the conditions.
He looks like he's more mature than he was last year.
Yeah.
It's
33
incredible.
league goals last season. He says that he'd obviously like to try and beat that this time around, but one of the things involved in that greater responsibility when we were trying to interpret his comments was which position would he play in, and he did speak about that. He says he's not actually trying to usurp Edinson Cavani and play down the middle all the time, even though he's got a greater chance of scoring goals when he does play down the middle. So how do you see this going, Armel?
Well, from that particular point you just made, it's nothing new. We saw it at the end of last season, but Mbappe, did he start he was coming in from the left on this particular
but he was on the left wing,
anyway yesterday. Dribbled 2 or 3 players as he tends to. And again, Cavani was just unmarked, begging for it in the middle. Mbappe went for goal. And you can understand that. When you've scored 33 goals in a league season, obviously you're going to be one of the players that goes for goal more often than not. But some chemistry there still lacking a little bit. And while Neymar is unavailable, or I imagine he'll be back soon, that needs to be one of the priorities to make sure PSG
He did say in that press
as
conference,
possible.
in talking about that positional play as well, that he talks a lot about the coach, about how they play, about what the interaction is with the other players and everything. So I'm sure it's, all the questions and everyone sort of trying to work out what the motivations are of each player and everything. Look, there does seem to be some chemistry more with other players and less with other players, which is all normal. But in that action, for example, I mean, it was superb the move was superb, and you're almost entitled to try and go for goal when you've dribbled 3 players at the speed and pace he does it as well.
Yeah, I think I commentated the game against Inter Milan in which I have to say Alphonse Areola had a brilliant game, and Paris Saint-Germain would have got mugged, quite frankly, without him in goal. They ended up losing on penalties, but what I thought was really promising, Robbie, was the way that Sarabia and Ander Herrera not only have played, and particularly Ander Herrera, but he was in there. And bear in mind that the guy has just come from Manchester United on a free. I mean, amazing bargain, amazing bargain. Exactly the sort of player Paris Saint-Germain needed. And more than just his play, he was talking and he was organising and he was telling people, get organised, get here, do this, do that. Now that's something that
it's been a more low key transfer window in terms of incoming players for Paris Saint-Germain, but it's a very sensible transfer window so far with addressing those midfield problems which we talked about at length on Le Beau Jeu last season by getting in Ander Herrera, by bringing in Idrissa Gueye from Everton, who I think is going to be a really important player in this upcoming season. And Sarabia looks an incredible bargain. As many assists as Lionel Messi in La Liga last season. He can score goals, looks like a team player, solid character.
Yeah, I think, as you said, it's low key in terms of there's no massive headline grabbing name like that there was in previous seasons. But that's exactly the sort of players that Paris Saint-Germain needed. They needed that experience. They needed somebody to talk. And as you say, Sarabia, as many assists as Lionel Messi in La Liga last season. I mean,
and he wasn't playing for Barcelona.
He wasn't playing for
Barcelona. And he already looks good. There's obviously a few things to be worked on in terms of link-up play. Just him knowing his partner's better, but he already looks like a very good addition to the team.
Yeah. Not only sort of a goal threat, but I mean set piece delivery has been excellent.
And a player who's not just, let's say, a backup to Angel Di Maria, but someone who can get into the rotation that Thomas Tuchel will have to use with all the games that Paris Saint-Germain are going to have to play.
And you also now have just with 4 or 5 additions to the squad, with particularly the big three, Herrera, Sarabia, and Idrissa Gueye, it's changed the whole. Well, and with Abdou Diallo as well at the back, it's changed the whole sort of structure of the team. You now don't see all those weaknesses that apparently were there last season. You've still got, if they keep all the players they have, the likes of Paredes, Draxler as well, I mean, where is the place for them in the side? But the fact that they are staying, that they're there, gives depth, gives everything, and there's quality everywhere all over the park now. Perhaps the fullback roles, Thomas Meunier looks like he's back in favour. So far, he's played every match. There's Colin Dagba, who's just come back from injury again. But
you love him, don't you, Robbie?
He's an option. He's a quality young player, Colin Dagba. And on the left side, Leven Kurzawa, Juan Bernat. There again, it's not perhaps the most exciting, Roberto Carlos-esque left-back position, but you've got 2 internationals who are going to compete for that left-back position.
Well, you say Roberto Carlos. They're not Roberto Carlos. I probably would say they are, because they're probably better going forward and defensively a little bit suspect. That's perhaps something they could work on. Just a quick word on Diallo, David. Had a couple of great seasons in Germany, and I think it's a really, really smart move.
Yeah, I was surprised he wasn't given more of a chance at Monaco. Whenever I did see him play, and he played when Monaco were going deep in all of those competitions, they sent a reserves team to play PSG in a cup semi-final, and he was the one Monaco player that really stood up in that game in 2017.
Well, I think the French Postal Services could learn a lot from his distribution, because it's been quality, and I think that
he only played 5 games in that season, but yeah, he does look, and I think he's grown a lot in those 2 seasons in Germany.
He was great at Mainz, Dortmund. You're playing in front of 80,000. There's a lot of pressure. You're challenging for the Bundesliga title, pushed Bayern Munich all the way, which is perhaps something that Paris Saint-Germain won't get this season. But with Thiago Silva's time at PSG, it is coming to an end, and it's a smart move to bring a young guy in.
He's seen as a threat to Presnel Kimpembe's place, and will it mean Marquinhos having to play a lot in midfield? All of these things are for future programmes. Before we leave PSG, I think we should just talk about the wealth of young talent that they've allowed to leave the club. It seems like this pattern's now been established, where you play 10 games, and Thomas Tuchel does like to give young players a chance, especially in the early part of the season or late in the season. And then that's enough to earn you a €10 million move somewhere, like Timothy Weah going to Lille, like Moussa Diaby going to Germany, Christopher Nkunku off to Germany. What's going on?
I was going to pick up on Timothy Weah's exit, actually, because I was quite surprised by that one, because he's got such marketability. And that seems to be such a big part of PSG's
American international plan. Timothy Weah, George Weah's son.
Exactly, and not only that, but if you look at his social media pages, you think he's a model more than a footballer. And someone like that would be perfect for kit launches on the catwalk, wouldn't they? I couldn't believe it. But Lille know what they're doing, so watch out for their kit launches next season.
Segway alert. I think we should talk about Lille. They finished second last season under Christophe Galtier, and they're going to play in the Champions League this year. They've already sold 160 million euros worth of players this transfer window, and it might not be finished yet. The talks of Thiago Maia joining the Exodus. Nicola Pepe's gone to Arsenal. Rafael Leao, we're all a bit sad that he's gone too, off to AC Milan. They've spent about 70 million euros, and we have to say that Weah aside, and maybe one or two of the others, they're pretty much unknown quantities, and it's going to be really fascinating to see how Galtier makes this team gel. I'm sceptical as to whether they'll be ready in time for the Champions League group stage.
I'll take my segue back if I can, because thank you, I like it. I think Lille, in losing Thiago Mendes, have made a very, very astute replacement with Benjamin Andre, who last season was one of the best tacklers in Europe.
One of the most underrated as well.
For sure.
And I think...
Really cheap as well. 8 million euros for a 29-year-old who was captain of Rennes.
Yeah.
Led them to the Coupe de France, led them in Europe.
I don't know much about Victor Osimhen, the centre-forward that they brought in from Charleroi, but judging Lille by the signings they've made in the past 2 or 3 seasons, you can only really be optimistic about the likes of Osimhen, about Bradaric, the left-back they've brought in to replace Youssouf Kone, and just for a laugh, they've also brought in a man called Leonardo Jardim.
Incredible.
Because you can never have
against
too many
competition
Jardims.
from Monaco as well.
Surely
Exactly,
Luis Campos did that on purpose.
But he's a goalkeeper, not a coach, that one. Let's hope he's just as good at press conferences.
I agree with you there, David. I mean, you can't expect them to be ready for the Champions League, can you? I mean, Nicola Pepe, look at the contribution he made to the team last season. It was absolutely phenomenal. There's no way. However good Timothy Weah is going to look in the catalogue, he's not going to produce that sort of output on the pitch. You can't expect them to do as well. I mean,
and we are expecting Weah to fill that position. He's seen as a wide attacker in Christophe Galtier's plans. I think Bomber's going to have to take it to another level, which he already moved up a big level last year, but he's going to have to take on that Pepe responsibility. Loic Remy, the veteran striker, did finish the season strongly, and they're making these acquisitions at the moment, so it's going to be really interesting.
I think we need to just place a little bit of our faith in Luis Campos. If Monaco's project came a little bit undone in the last 18 months, it's because Luis Campos moved to Lille. If Lille was so impressive, it's because as well of that Luis Campos move. The man has an incredible scouting network all over the world, and these players that no one's ever heard of that he brings in, they're invariably 2 or 3 of them are incredibly talented players with huge potential.
And when you're talking about putting faith in people, let's not forget Christophe Galtier. I mean, how many times did he get his star players sold from underneath him at Saint-Etienne? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, notably amongst them, and still Saint-Etienne challenged. Yeah, they weren't challenging for the title, but they were certainly up there with the top 4 or 5. He did it time and again. He's going to have to do it again now. It's a massive challenge in the Champions League, but I think the Champions League is just a bonus for Lille, isn't it? I mean, a bonus in terms of economy. They really needed the cash, hence the big outgoings in terms of players this summer. But they've got 6 games at the top European level, and there's given the draw, they might squeeze into the Europa League. I mean, it's just a huge
Having
bonus
said that, Thiago Mendes leaving, Fonch is staying. I take it.
Which one?
That's important. Rui's left.
Rui's
gone
left,
back. Yeah,
but one player in particular, I think, if you talk about midfielders leaving, freeing up space. One guy who really impressed me last season was Boubakary Soumaré, and that space will open up for him now, and I think he could really be an important player, not just for Lille, but in the league this season.
Quick fire question for all of us here. Can Lille finish in the top 3 again? I say no.
I'll go with yes.
Don't know.
He's bottled it.
You're not allowed to be yes in the first programme.
No, not a chance.
Which leads us neatly on. Will there be a title race this season? Can anyone challenge Paris Saint-Germain? On paper, I think Lyon are best equipped to try and mount a challenge. And let's talk about some of their transfer movement this summer. On the way that they finished last season, I'd have to say getting Thiago Mendes in and selling Tanguy Ndombele for all that money to Tottenham is a very good move.
Oh, absolutely. I think on Ndombele, the suggestions that he just takes it a little bit easy were completely justified. At times when Lyon needed him and others, it has to be said, to step up, he didn't really take the game by the scruff of the neck as you would have hoped. And I think it's probably a good move for Lyon in economic terms, and also a good move for Ndombele in the fact that he's got a bigger challenge now to face.
Furlong Mendy and Nabil Fekir, other high-profile departures, and new men in charge at Lyon with Silvinho coaching and Juninho overseeing that. Jean-Michel Aulas starting to take a little bit more of a back seat now that he's in his 70s and has got someone he really trusts in Juninho.
Well, it's the first foreign coach, isn't it, that he's brought in for a long time, and certainly a coach that doesn't have a Lyon history as well, which was one of the things he always said, Jean-Michel Aulas. It always had to be an ex-player that was at the helm. Of course, all the backroom staff, and with Juninho, he's surrounded by all. Florian Maurice is still
Claudio
there.
Cacipa doing his translation, the former Lyon defender, the fellow
Is Chris
Brazilian.
still there?
No, Chris left.
He's gone.
No, the reserves didn't do that well under Chris, and Chris ended up leaving.
Speaking, that's another point about, just to go back to the Paris Saint-Germain kids. There is no reserve team this year at Paris Saint-Germain as well, which is what it is, but they've decided not to have a reserve team. So all those young players that are over the age to fit into the under-19 squad, well, they're all going to leave. So there are some players to be had for all these clubs around Europe as well. But Lyon,
You want a percentage, Rob?
no comment.
So more about Lyon haven't been that good in pre-season so far. Silvinho wanted to play a 4-3-3. We're now hearing whispers that could be modified to try and incorporate Martin Terrier, who was magnificent at the end of last season and likes playing in a left-sided role, maybe in a 4-2-3-1. Nabil Fekir not suited to the 4-3-3. Is Fekir leaving? It's sad, and I was surprised how low the transfer fee was and where he went, going to Real Betis, considering he almost signed for Liverpool last
No
year.
Champions League football for him this season.
But is it, Ian, going to free Lyon up in a way, give them a chance to move on?
Yeah, I think you're right there with Silvinho trying to put in that 4-3-3. Fekir was never going to fit into that.
He hasn't got the mobility anymore.
No, he doesn't, and I think that's obviously that move to Liverpool, which fell through, and talks about his knee, which he injured so badly. I think memory serves back in 2015, just after he scored his first Ligue 1 hat-trick, actually, has really done a lot of damage to his reputation in terms of, can he still really hack it over a lengthy season? And that's why Betis have got him at a real bargain basement price. I hope he does do well. I think he's a fabulous player, but yeah, maybe he wanted to leave as well. So his time at Lyon was up. Quite looking forward to actually seeing Lyon this season. I think
I have to say one thing I found really, really good in reading an extensive interview with Silvinho in L'Equipe was that he spoke to Bruno Genesio. Bruno Genesio gave him a lot of time. He said they sat down for breakfast and they could almost have ordered lunch by the time they finished talking to each other. So this handover has gone off very peacefully and in a very mature way, which isn't always that common in football.
And he's also going to. He's not a Lyon man, or not a former Lyon man, as many of them have been, but his very close association with Juninho.
Exactly, he's a Juninho man.
He's going to give him a huge amount of credit. I mean, I don't think we can overstate just how important.
And he's done very
Juninho
well
in
the Brazilian Federation, hasn't he? With youth teams, I think he's very well respected.
Well, he was going to take credit. He
CBF.
was taking over the Olympic team, and then the call came from Juninho to join him there. And Aulas has absolute 100% faith in Juninho's decisions. And so whatever Juninho says about Silvinho is good enough for Aulas.
But is Thiago Mendes a good enough replacement for Ndombele? Is Kone a good enough replacement for Furlong Mendy?
I think both of those players are very good players, but we also have to remember this is Lyon, and you never know what's coming out of their academy. You never know which youngster they've signed over the summer from a lower league team that they've spotted for a long time. One of those, I don't know if any of you saw his goal against Genoa when Lyon lost 4-3 in pre-season. Lad called Boubacar Fofana, 20 years old. It's quite funny when the ball hits the back of the net, top corner, Memphis Depay kind of turns around and goes, "You?" A brilliant goal. And it made me excited that despite the fact that they might not be signing big names the way that Premier League teams have been this summer and taking Pepe's away from us, the Ndombele's away from us, there's going to be a new flow of fresh talent to get excited about. Can't talk about them yet because they haven't done enough.
But isn't there not this feeling as well that Lyon have that intangible thing that makes a club a big club, in whether it's in France or in Europe as well? And you always know, even if, look, they've sold a few players, Lyon will be one of the biggest rivals just because they are Olympique Lyonnais, and that's what it is to be Olympique Lyonnais.
I mean, if you look at the potential front line of Memphis, Bertrand Traoré, and Moussa Dembele, who has been pretty decent in pre-season. Didn't play all that well, I have to say, with the France under-21s at the European Championships when they got to the semi-finals, but was carrying a bit of an injury. But he finished last season well. I know he had a difficult start to his Lyon career. That's a pretty decent front line. And I think Thiago Mendes, no, he's not as good as Tanguy Ndombele. I mean, intrinsically, he's not a like-for-like replacement, but he's a very, very solid replacement. I think Joachim Andersen, I mean, he's a Danish centre-back. I mean, think about
to replace Marcelo.
Yeah, think about Danish centre backs in the past. They generally know what they're doing. Really good defenders, young guy, typical sort of Lyon boy. I mean, I think the real question is, like it was last season, can they perform consistently? They took 4 points off Man City in the Champions League. I don't think any Premier League team took 4 points off Man City last season.
The real question for me is, what is Mapu Yangambiwa doing back in the side? He's been playing in pre-season.
He got a pre-season goal.
He didn't play for the last 2 seasons. In the first season, he's been there the whole time. It's
but remember, I mean, David
is it just to sell him off?
David will tell us how badly he did at Newcastle, but he was a really good player.
When he captained Montpellier to the title in 2012, I thought he was of that clutch of signings at Newcastle.
He's a France international.
I thought he was the best of them. He was the one I expected to go on really well and have a fantastic career.
As you probably all know around this table, the first team training pitch at Montpellier's training ground is called Le Terrain Mapu Yangambiwa. This guy's still playing. That's how good he was. And now he can't get a game.
I said that the first trophy of the season was claimed by Paris Saint-Germain. That was actually wrong. The EA Ligue 1 games took place in Washington and Marseille got the bunting out. They had a triumphant homecoming, having seen off the challenge of the other 3 Ligue 1 clubs who were out there, Saint-Etienne, Bordeaux and Montpellier, to walk away with the trophy. André Villas-Boas, their new coach, but a bit of belt tightening going on at Marseille. They've overspent in recent seasons, and we don't quite know how they're going to shape up this season.
Benedetto's there, though, isn't he? He was at the Velodrome. Dario Benedetto, this is the Boca Juniors.
29-year-old forward.
Forward, yeah. I think he scored a couple of Libertadores final goals, didn't he? That's why most people know him. But, I mean, the general opinion is at Marseille that it's another season of uncertainty because the likes of Luis Gustavo and Kevin Strootman, who, despite not really being able to play together, do provide some ballast and some experience in the middle of the park. There's Andreas Villas-Boas' arrival, which is exciting because Rudy Garcia was a bit boring, wasn't he? He just moaned whenever Marseille lost and blamed the ref. So there is excitement around.
Yeah, and the passion's there. They had a crowd of over 40,000 for the home defeat to Napoli in their final pre-season game. So, as ever with Marseille, if they make a good start, the Velodrome will be right behind them. If it doesn't go that well, then Villas-Boas is going to be under pressure from the off. I think
the player that they're really going to miss is Lucas Ocampos. I mean, they've kept Thauvin, which was crucial. I mean, yeah, they've kept Payet, but he was pretty underwhelming last season. But Lucas Ocampos, I mean, is there a player that you can rely on more to put in a shift for your side? Even if he's not playing well, even if things aren't coming off for him, his head doesn't drop, he's still running, he's still doing it. And Marseille have cashed in on him because they've had to. No Balotelli, that's perhaps not a massive loss, but he did score a reasonable amount of goals for him.
He did well in his 6 months. Well, 5.
I'd also be a bit worried about the lack of a backup goalkeeper once again, and backup even with a view to taking over. Now Steve Mandanda is...
Who's back as captain now? Steve Mandanda.
Oh, under Villas-Boas.
Villas-Boas has had a chat. He says he's got 4 captains in his team, but Mandanda is going to be the man wearing the armband.
Is Gregory Sertic one of them?
No.
Well, he's back.
He is back, yep.
Florian Thauvin is one of them.
Florian Thauvin.
And Dimitri Payet,
We're seeing more and more of this, aren't we? This sharing the captain's armband around and sharing the responsibility. Is it about being nice to senior players and saying, here, you can wear the captain's armband again? Is it about creating some sort of leadership committee in the club?
They have that typically in sort of Spanish clubs, don't they? You hear about the sort of dressing room committee.
First captain, second captain, third captain.
Dressing room committee goes up and sort of tells the coach this and that and the other and organises bonuses.
The Brazil national team was all changing captains for a while there as well.
But I have to say, I'd be slightly concerned that if I have to give a senior player the captain's armband just to make him take on some responsibility, I'd be questioning what on earth he's doing at the club.
None of these teams have a Scott Brown or a Vinnie Jones, do they? So you can't share captaincy when you've got cojones like that in the dressing room. You just can't. So, maybe this is the way forward in the modern game.
It's the lack of a leader, or lack of a clear leader, that means you share the captain's armband.
Lack of the old-fashioned leader, shall we say. Someone that could always, doesn't matter who's in front of you, they'll come up and back you.
Imposes his will.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the changing room as well, probably.
And Marseille kick off their season at home to Reims on Saturday afternoon. Lyon are at Monaco the previous day. We should talk about Monaco, I think. Leonardo Jardim, brought back after 100 days of paid holiday, as it's generally known now, came back with an improved contract. And Monaco, they've got to be stronger this time around, haven't they? I think we're going to see a lot more transfer business from them over the next 3 weeks in both directions. But I think they're going to be exciting to watch this year.
Huge match to start with as well for the season.
Against Lyon, yeah.
Against Lyon.
It's looking like they're going to lose Falcao between now and the end of the season. That will be a big loss, not only for Monaco, but for our beloved Ligue 1 as well, because he's been a brilliant striker for these past few years. Didn't realise that Keita Balde, of course, come back from loan, and that's an interesting addition for an African Cup of Nations finalist and someone that has shown that he's got what it takes to be a very good player. I think there's still a lot of work for Monaco.
I think they're going to have a lot of pace going forward, though, because they've made the Gelson Martins signing permanent. It seems like Onyekuru is going to come in to play on the left-hand side with Ronnie Lopez perhaps going. So that we're starting to get back towards the sort of model that served them so well when they won the title, albeit with players that aren't quite so good. And we're hearing that Jardim wants to play the 4-4-2 that got them to the title as well.
I mean, Falcao, 15 goals last season? I think Monaco only scored 30-odd. So it was a huge contribution. But of course, Jovetic was injured again. And Jovetic came in when Falcao was out the previous season and did a pretty good cameo. He's, late 20s? Falcao is, 33, 34, I think, in February.
Are you playing the Robbie Thompson age?
I was going to ask... You're on very thin ice.
I was going to ask Robbie and then thought better of it. But...
Commit 33 or 34.
Yeah. I think he's 33.
I will not be making any comment.
But regardless, if the money comes in from China, get something for him, and Jovetic can, if he stays fit, and it is a little bit of a big if, it has to be said.
Yeah, there are plenty of forwards we'd like to see stay fit this year. Pellegrini, I'd really like to see more of. We'd like to see a little bit of Gerbils, the player they signed for 20 million from Lyon.
It's
kid.
Gerbils, is it?
Gerbils.
Okay, like the animal.
Yes,
okay,
almost.
Right.
Almost.
The animals.
Radamel Falcao is 33.
Thank you.
El Tigre.
And does Radamel not want to go and play baseball then? I saw a comment from him the other day saying that he's got several options and he doesn't know what's best for his career at this stage, but they're exciting things. But I thought midway through last season he announced his desire to give baseball a shake.
Well, I think playing baseball is not going to do a lot for his football career, Robbie. I'll stick my neck out there and say that is probably going to be a bit of a problem. But no, he did want to be. I mean, baseball's massive in South America,
Colombia, as you know. Yeah.
So he did fancy it, I think, when he was a kid. But I fancy being a professional footballer for Sunderland when I was a kid. And look how that went.
Still could.
I probably still could. I'd probably get a game. Yeah.
Saint-Etienne finished fourth last season. Jean-Louis Gasset was terrific for them, but he decided that was his time in football done. It was time to go back to Montpellier. And his assistant, Gislain Printemps, has taken over. Is Printemps going to keep that spring in the Saint-Etienne step?
Very nice, Dave.
I am always a little bit sceptical when the assistant steps up. Having said that, Galtier was assistant to Alain Perrin at Saint-Etienne, and well, look what he did. I I think it's more
And
about
Jean-Louis Gasset was assistant to Laurent Blanc everywhere.
Everywhere.
And
yeah,
assistant to
years
Julien
as well.
Sablé.
Yeah, exactly, for about 3 games. But I think, Saint-Etienne, a lot hinges on, does Mvila stay? A lot of talk about him leaving. Cabella has gone.
Well, I think
but
he's going to stay, Jan Mvila, isn't he, after the coaching appointment? It
Well, there
was
was
one that he wanted, wasn't it?
there was a suggestion that he didn't get on the plane to go to the US and etc. etc.
We might know a lot more by Thursday, which is when the English Premier League transfer window closes in terms of Jan Mvila's future.
You've got to look. I tell you what, personally, as a League One commentator, I'm pretty happy that Yanis Saliba has gone back at the end of his loan, and William Saliba, although he has signed for Arsenal, is staying, because keeping both of them was it was a commentary nightmare.
30 million euros Arsenal have paid for Saliba, who was Matt Spiro's one to watch. And I wonder if Matt had a little word with Unai Emery, because Saliba has signed for the Gunners, but a bit like the Kurt Zouma deal to Chelsea a few years ago, has been loaned back to Ligue, and he's got to be first choice this season. William Saliba, really terrific young player.
You say that, but they brought in Arnold Makudi, who a lot of Ligue 2 enthusiasts were raving about. I think he came in from Le Havre, who have a history of producing fantastic players as well, the Norman club. So it is almost a given that Saliba is going to be first choice if Arsenal were prepared to put 30 million on his head. But
Nice
Are we not happy to see Riyad
Boudabou's
Boudabou's back?
Yeah, I was
Exactly.
just about
That's
to say that.
Fantastic.
We know he'll turn it on in those Sunday night games that are shown in prime time on French television, and then we'll probably walk around the pitch and the games that are 8 o'clock on a Saturday night.
There are always a couple of nutmegs involved.
Yeah, but
in
you've got
games.
to quite fancy Boudabou's and Khazri together. I mean, even I thought Robert Beric actually pretty underrated. I think he could be in that sort of Brandao role that he did so well when he was alongside
battering
Bamian.
ram.
Yeah, sort of battering ram forward. And I mean, set piece delivery from those two and set piece goal threat from Boudabou's and Khazri is. I mean, Boudabou's for me is an upgrade on Cabella.
And they've also brought in Denis Bouanga from Nîmes, who I think probably got 6 or 7 goals last season for Nîmes. 8. There we go. And he's a Gabonese international, plays alongside Aubameyang. Similar sort of eccentric and fast, straight-to-goal style. Not quite as good as Aubameyang, but he was decent in a green shirt as well for Saint-Etienne. So let's see what Bouanga's got in his socks.
Nice. We should have a word about Rennes, who lost to Paris Saint-Germain in the Trophée des Champions. They've signed Edouard Mendy as a new goalkeeper, who was brilliant last year at Reims, kept a lot of clean sheets. And
we didn't really see
Rennes.
Rennes. We didn't really see Rennes, though, did we? 2 days ago against Paris Saint-Germain, there were so many players missing and so many changes from the side last year as well.
Yeah,
but the
late
coach is
returns
still
from the
there.
Africa Cup of Nations, the likes of Mbaye Nyong and Ismaila Sarr.
Ben Sebaini as well, who was absent, and he's really caught the eye after the Africa Cup of Nations. But I thought was very good last year as well, and got that incredible goal in Europe, in the Europa League. Look, good players and a good coach. They'll stay organised. We have to see, the likes keeping Ismaila Sarr and bringing in Mbaye Nyong on a permanent deal are very important. They're both big and fast. They have experience. They're important pieces to the puzzle. What's going to happen in midfield? Benjamin Andre was such an important player for them. And at the back, Mecher, who scored the goal that gave them hope in the Cup final last year, he's gone to Bordeaux. What are they going to do at the back?
I like the way they replaced Mozambique with Madagascar at the back by bringing in Jeremy Morel, who managed to make it back for the pre-season training despite representing Madagascar this summer.
We were talking about a solid professional in
There we
Campos, but Jeremy Morel is the model professional.
Yeah.
No one's got a bad word to
Probably
say about him. Even when the crowd are on his back, he'll always try for his team.
He's probably the only man in Ligue 1 that can win a header with his chest. That's a good addition to any side.
I mean, Morel De Silva. I'm a pretty big fan of De Silva as well. I think he's another very, very solid Ligue 1 performer. Benzabani, that's a really good back three.
They have to hold on to him, though. Apparently, there are plenty of observers circling around Ben Sebaini, trying to pry him away. Flavien Tay,
interesting player.
Obviously had a great season last year.
And
Good fit
with
for
Angers.
Rennes. That's exactly the sort of player you can see
Yeah,
playing
exactly.
for Rennes, with Ben Arfa having left the club as well. They needed a player with that creativity.
And a couple of impressive moments against Paris Saint-Germain on Saturday for him. And one player, we were talking about him earlier, Eduardo Camavinga, 17 years old. I was so impressed with him every time I commentated a game he was involved in, and he started the Trophée des Champions, so he's clearly in Julien Stéphan's plans for the coming season. I'm really excited to see what he can do.
I mean, Rennes have always had that sort of tag of being a wonderful producer of youth talent. They've been sort of overtaken a bit by Lyon, but look at their pedigree.
It's a rare tag, isn't it? Wonderful producer.
yeah, you could say executive.
Fortunately, we've got one, Armel.
There we go.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks. Checks in the post, boys.
Now, we all know that pre-season is mainly important for getting up to speed, but you don't want to lose your last friendly 8-1, do you? And that's what Patrick Vieira's Nice did. They lost 8-1 against Wolfsburg, which was a game of 2 halves, but the halves lasted 60 minutes or something like that. And we've seen some 3 times 45-minute games going on in pre-season as well. They'd also lost 6-1 to Burnley. And this does not augur well for Nice.
Wasn't the second... Wolfsburg brought on an entire new 11 in the second half, which I think was the reserve team, wasn't it? Or was it the first team that came on? I think it was. My fears are that they brought on a lot of young players to destroy Nice in the second half, but I could have misinterpreted.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think you're venturing into uncharted territory there, Robbie. Thanks very much for making us look a bit daft.
I didn't find a live TV stream of that one, unfortunately.
But he has to. I mean, you got to worry for what?
I was concentrating on the Debuchy-Co. As Saint-Etienne lost 2-1 at Newcastle on Saturday, Debuchy did score.
Yeah, with
made a big mistake.
A rare rush of blood to the head from one of my sort of
one of your heroes.
Bromance heroes, Stefan Ruffier. But
look, he cleaned up Zlatan Ibrahimovic in that famous game a few years ago. Ibrahimovic weighs about 25 kilos more than Joe Linton.
Well, he was up against.
Is that because it was pre-season? If that same situation happens when he plays his first Ligue 1 game this weekend, he'd take the man out, wouldn't he?
Well, I mean, I tell you what, if Ruffier had tried to take out Joe Linton, who I love, I mean, he's a Brazilian forward, very good at Hoffenheim, by the way, if you wanted to know that. But he has,
which part of France is that?
He just has
East,
pretty close to Germany. He's I mean, he's got such a. He just sounds like a plumber from Gateshead or something.
I'll try and get us back onto topic now.
Yeah, sorry.
Newcastle signed Alan Saint-Maximin for 20 million euros from Nice, who we were talking about. So let's go back to talking about Patrick Vieira's Nice, who defensively were outstanding last season, and that's why they finished so high up the table. But they've conceded 8 to Wolfsburg and they conceded 6 to Burnley.
Yeah, that's why you've got to worry that they've conceded 14 in 2 games, haven't you? I mean,
and in their defence, they've let 2 players go, who one was hugely experienced, in the eve of his career.
Didn't
Christophe
play much
Chalet.
last year.
He did struggle with injuries as well, so perhaps that's not quite so important. But I was really surprised, considering their lack of movement in the transfer window, to see Olivier Buscagli leave. He's been snapped up by PSV Eindhoven, who clearly saw something in him, something that not always, but I also recognised there was a bit of talent there. Young player, just 21 years old, and I'd have thought that's the sort of player that Nice would want to hold on for, even if it's just to make a bit more money in a couple of years' time. But there is so much work to be done. They've only brought in
many players.
Kethrem Thuram, Marcus Thuram's little brother, is pretty much the only recognised signing they've made.
We're still waiting for the takeover. Britain's richest man,
of course.
The pro-Brexit businessman Jim Ratcliffe, who owns Ineos, is close to taking over Nice. But for the good of Les Aiglons, it would have been better if this had happened a little while ago, so they could have got on with their summer business, and Vieira and Gilles Grimondi and everyone else around there would feel on a more solid footing going into the new season.
I feel being pro-Brexit might be the reason why it's taking so long, because that just seems to slow everything down, doesn't it?
But I mean, you do look at that Nice side, and where are the goals going to come from? I mean, Yusuf Attal got 6.
There were hardly any last year, weren't there?
He's the right back. Exactly.
Yeah. I think Saint-Maximin had 6 as well. Weren't they joint top scorers?
They were
2
joint
of them?
top scorers.
I mean, they need Mizian Maulida to come good for one. He's got to get off the mark.
Yeah, but
he just got in a rut, didn't he? Because he's fast. He should be someone that can get goals, but just didn't happen for him.
I mean, I think they tried to do, and he came in from Lyon, didn't he? And just as Alassane Plea had done, his move to Nice really kick-started his career. He was fabulous at Borussia Mönchengladbach, back to Germany, sorry chaps, last season. But, Maulida he's been injured.
Yeah.
Of course, there was that huge imbroglio with Mario Balotelli for the first half. That's what I get paid for, David. Big words. I read it in a book. last season, I mean, that just really poisoned the first half of Nice's last season, didn't it? I mean, it was they were always chasing the game after that. They've been looking to offload Balotelli. Will he, won't he? Will he, won't he? Eventually goes in January, but it's too late by then, and they've got nobody to replace him.
Well, their best player last year was Walter Benitez.
Absolutely.
By some distance.
Absolutely, yeah.
Could well be again. I mean, look, Vieira also clearly understood that it was going to be a problem finding goals, so played defensively the whole. Not only the structure, but the way they played, the animation of their football was defensive. I don't see any reason at the moment, given what's happened in the transfer market, why that will change. To be honest, I think it will be another.
And there's still a good few days for Willian Cyprien to be signed by West Ham or Newcastle, so they need to be careful about that as well. Surely
that doesn't. I mean, he's got huge potential. Is that what Newcastle look for in French Ligue 1 players, Dave?
No comment. The first Le Beau Jeu of the season is flying past, and if you're fans of some of the clubs we've not mentioned so far, don't worry, we will come back to them in future editions. But I think we'll just have a look at a couple more clubs, the promoted clubs, because we didn't talk about these at all last year because they were in Domino's Ligue 2 and not in Ligue 1 Conforama. Metz and Brest have come up, and they'll have to really go some to match the achievements of Reims and Nîmes last season, who got their top half finishes and were safe from relegation really early. So I know you've got a bit of a soft spot for Metz, haven't you, Armel?
For Metz, no, not really. Me, it's the Breton teams, so it'll be Brest.
Gaëtan Charbonnier, 27 Ligue 2 goals last season.
And Abdou Diallo's little brother as well, plays at Brest.
For Charbonnier, just quickly, he is one of those classic Ligue 2 players who are
the Dwight Gale of France.
Exactly, but and just can't seem to do it, and just can't understand why, can't seem to do it in Ligue 1.
He was signed as Olivier Giroud's replacement in 2012. I think he's played Champions League football.
Quality footballer, great vision, intelligent footballer, big, slow. Strong, bit slow, but can do it at the second division, and just can't seem to do it regularly, at least in the top flight.
He played for PSG.
I was going to say he did when he was a kid, didn't he? Yeah.
I was worried about positivity and that he maybe.
Well, maybe that's where it comes from.
They're interesting as Jean-Marc Furlong, who is someone I really admire in French football, a lover of the game, always sends his teams out to play attacking football. He left after getting them promoted, and Olivier Dall'Olio won the race with Christophe Pélissier, the former Amiens coach, to take over.
Did they literally have a race?
In my mind,
the first one to Brest.
I love that idea.
The first one to get
it's
there.
It's like, right, lads.
The first one to reach the western tip of France gets the job.
I have to say, I think of those two, I think Metz are the better equipped. Can we just clear up the pronunciation there as well, chaps? Because we've got Metz and Metz and.
It is Metz.
By all accounts, it is Metz.
Yeah.
Same with Auxerre, where Furlong has gone. Auxerre.
But I think, I mean, a little bit like Strasbourg, brilliant fans. Sometimes they do sort of overdo it a little bit, but they've got a decent keeper in Ukija, who was at Angers, seems to me, and they got
Strasbourg, I think.
Strasbourg, and
an African winner,
absolutely.
Champion.
And Habib Diallo, look out for him. 26 goals last season. That was as many as he'd scored in his entire career. Before then, he's only got one in Ligue 1 prior to that. They're going to need him to sort of keep that form. But Senegalese striker came through the Generation Foot Academy, like Sadio Mane, Ismail Assar, among others. He's going to be their main man.
They've kept Thierry Ambrose on loan.
Absolutely.
Season. That's good.
And Kevin Nduram.
Exactly,
who's
from
never
Monaco.
really got his chance at Monaco, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do in a slightly different shade of red.
And they have, I see Frederic Antonetti as being Metz's Ian Holyman, or the other way around, because they sort of run things, but from thousands of miles away. That Antonetti's based in Corsica. Unfortunately, there are illnesses in his family, and he has to devote his time to that. But he still is in charge, technically, with Vincent Ognon. I hope you like that pronunciation.
I think that's very good, yeah.
Thanks.
Hognon,
silent H.
Vincent Hognon.
Was he not having a disaster at Nancy?
He was, He was only in charge for
the
7
former
or 8
Saint-Etienne
games.
defender.
He's spent a lot of time at Nancy.
Yeah, he was
as a
at
player
Nancy
as well.
as well,
I think he's very much a Nancy boy, could you say?
You
I
could
guess
say
you
that, yeah.
shouldn't, but could, yes. Well, you have.
In terms of where he's from. But he's now with Metz, and he's...
The arch rivals.
He's the, shall we say, the puppet master, because Antonetti is taking control from home, as Dave just mentioned, and he's still relaying information to Vincent Hognan, who's taking charge.
Hognan, not so good on the pronunciation.
No.
They've got a couple of veterans, a bit of experience as well, which you always need in the side. John Boy,
Yeah.
Ghana
Right,
International,
John Boy, yeah.
and Renaud Coad, who
Great player.
He is a great
Great
player, yeah.
underrated player.
Stopula Sunzu as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Zambian.
Yeah.
won the Nations Cup under
Zambia.
The man with
Mr. Fox.
The Fox.
a number of white shirts in his
Almost as many as
wardrobe.
you. I know.
Oh,
One day when we do get our video cameras up and running, you'll see how pristine Ian Holyman's white shirts are. He gets up at 6 in the morning.
I do love an iron.
Right. I think it's time for us to make some predictions that will make us look very stupid when it comes to next May. So let's start.
with this weekend.
Let's start with the promoted clubs. Are they going to stay up, Metz and Brest? I'm going to say Metz, yes, Brest, no.
I'll second that.
I would have said that as well, but maybe I feel I should say both will stay up because perhaps two Ligue 1 sides could mess it up as well, I think.
I think Brest will go down. Yep, definitely. Metz, let's hope they stay
I think
up.
Metz look the stronger of the two, without doubt.
As long as Gagor come back up, if Brest go down, then that's
You
fine.
don't care, do you?
No, that's all right.
Let's go for our top three really quickly. I'm going to go last just to see what you three say, and then I'll give it our copy.
I'll go PSG Lille. Sorry, Lyon. Forget Lille. Third, anybody's guess.
Really cleared that one up. Cheers.
I said top three, Ian. I'm going to go into political interviewing mode here. I want the top three.
This was like Robbie's best moments. Where
me.
All right,
have to-
Dijon. I'm kidding. I have no idea.
I nearly
who'll
got
finish
there
third.
in the end at the end of last season. Well, Paris Saint-Germain champions, Lyon second.
See?
Just put it into the hat, yeah? For
Yeah,
third
exactly.
place.
Just pick out any name, to be honest, because Montpellier possibly.
What was
Montpellier
Strasbourg?
not doing too bad.
Montpellier,
Strasbourg.
Monaco.
Okay.
and I'm going PSG, Lille, Marseille.
No Lyon.
I don't know why. I think it's just I want Marseille to do well for the sake of our beloved league. So there we are. And I prefer Lille to Lyon. It's purely emotional. Nothing
I was
else.
going to say that's absolutely wishful thinking.
Yep,
I'm
genuinely.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to predict PSG champions as well. Why not? PSG, Lyon, Marseille, my top three.
I think the real question is just, is it going to be as much of a cakewalk for PSG as it was last season? That's more the question, isn't it? They're going to win the title, surely, but I'm really hopeful that Lyon can push them a lot harder.
They do catwalks, not cakewalks now.
Well, I thought that was Lille. I thought it was Timothy Weah on the catwalk.
Ah, I see he's left now.
I'm so confused. It's only my first. I'm only making my debut, boys.
done well, Ian.
But you do listen to the programme, don't you?
I'll refer you to my lawyer.
If you do listen to the programme, you'll know that we like to finish off with our Bon Voyage feature. It's week one of the season, it's sunny, everyone's happy, everyone
No
in
one's
Paris
in
is on
Paris.
holiday.
Yeah.
Paris Saint-Germain are at home, so maybe it will be more tourists at the Parc des Princes than usual when they host Nîmes on Sunday night. But I think all of us should have a go at Bon Voyage this week. Anyone want to go first?
Well, I'd just like to, for those tourists who turn up at the Parc des Princes, parking is free around the Parc des Princes. So,
Are you sure Boulogne is included in that?
Boulogne is definitely free in August.
Okay.
So as I've parked this morning.
Traffic
so,
news.
Fill your boots. I was sorry, Armel. I was just
I was just going to jump in your car with you because I know you like to head back to Germany a lot to see the latest Hoffenheim strikers. But I'll stop off in Strasbourg and go and see the Eastern Derby to kick off the season.
that is a tasty
Strasbourg
one.
against Metz on Sunday, 5 o'clock kickoff. That's always fiery. Get it over and done with in the summer. Good idea.
Busy fixture list for Strasbourg at the moment with all their Europa League qualifiers, and we do wish them well with those.
Yeah, very nice fixture first up as well to go with Monaco, Lyon. I'm going to head down to the French coast, the Riviera, Whereabouts? Nice or Monaco? Monaco
Do both.
Friday night. Could do both. Yes, true. There's only 60 kilometres between the two.
Not
Less,
even.
30.
Not even. It's about half an hour drive. Very very nice drive it is too. If
It's
I
an
can continue
expensive
the travel
taxi,
thing.
I seem to remember, from flying to Nice
an
and then
expensive
missing the
everything
train
down
to
there,
Monaco.
Robert.
Very nice
and
drive.
back. Very nice drive. I'll be there Friday night.
I'm just going to go slightly left field here. I want to go to Montpellier Rennes, because I think that's a very good game, and I think that will give it. I mean, it's very early, but I think Montpellier have got a pretty decent side now. I mean, we haven't mentioned him, but he seems to have been mentioned in every single pod last season, because I did actually listen to it, believe it or not. Teji Savanier.
Injured.
Oh,
no.
Yes, he's out sidelined for a while.
That is desperate, because I
The
think
team gone then.
I think I think Laborde and Delors as well up front, very very good. I think the question mark has to be, how can Dimitri Berto or whoever they bring in replace Leconte in goal? They were very good defensively, as you might expect, if Delors and Laborde can continue scoring.
Andy Delors, African champion as well.
Well,
quite remarkably,
indeed. But if Savanier, if and when Savanier gets fit, I think that, along with Florent Mollet, I think they've got a very very good side.
Is that
indeed.
not the creativity they perhaps just lacked a little bit?
Absolutely.
For De Zakarian. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go to Lille. I'm going to go to Lille against Nantes on Sunday afternoon, because I want to see what Le Canaries are going to do after Vahid Halilhodzic has decided to leave Nantes. He took charge of their final friendly against Genoa, and now he's off.
Gone.
And I also want to see
coachless
these
Nantes.
new Lille players, so that I've got more to say on next week's podcast.
Yeah, could you pick us up a catalogue as well when you're in the fan shop, please? Because I really want to see Timothy.
I'll try and
Weah.
get a selfie. Yeah, and this is what the kids do, isn't it? I'll put it on my Insta. That wasn't very credible, was it? Anyway, I think that's how we're going to finish this first Le Beau Jeu, the official Ligue 1 podcast of the season. I do hope you've enjoyed listening to it. Thanks to Robbie Thompson for hosting us and his contributions as ever. Any song, Robbie, to finish with?
No songs. I didn't sing very well. No songs.
Thanks to Ian Holyman and Armel Tongi. I'm David Crossan, and probably Matt Spiro will be back next week. We'll find out.
An absolute beauty from Florian Thauvin. Oh, the pass is brilliant for Pepe. And Thauvin.
Saint-Etienne has surely won it in the 89th minute.
Payet. Oh, what a goal.
And Kylian Mbappe wraps it up.